Welcome back. Part 1. My ex-girlfriend invited me to her wedding with the intention of humiliating me by showing off her rich new partner. So I brought a special guest as my plus one. By the end of the night, she was left crying because her marriage was over. Despite her yelling, I kept my calm and reminded her that every man has different needs. Ben clearly came from an affluent family, hence, he might not care as much as me about his career, but I like my career. I also told her that if she wanted a man like Ben, she should be with him. I told her that we should not argue about this further and that she could move out of our place as soon as she could. Her eyes widened, and she asked me how I could afford to pay rent. I explained to her that I had received a raise in my salary and that I was now capable of paying the entire rent without having any roommates. Hearing this, she began to shout, telling me that I was trying to show off in front of her. She told me how Ben was richer than me and even had his own house, which his father had bought for him. She kept yelling that I needed to change myself and become more complacent. She then sneered at me, saying that, at the end of the day, women wanted a house husband and not a man who could earn more than them. At this point, I asked her to shut up, as I was tired of arguing with her in the middle of the night. I told her she had until the end of the month to move out, and until then she could sleep on the couch. I could hear her still grumbling, but I ignored her and went back to sleep. Fortunately, over the week, Lily started to pack and slowly move out her things. I was starting to get excited, thinking about the prospect of finally having this entire place all to myself. On her last night when I came back home, I was shocked to see Lily and Ben sitting on our couch. I looked at her curiously, and she informed me that because this was her last night at this place, she wanted to show Ben where she lived. I couldn't believe the audacity she had to bring another man into this place without asking me, knowing that I was going to be back. I didn't want to be rude to Ben, as I thought this wasn't his fault, so I shouldn't be rude to a guest. I politely greeted him, but to my surprise, he looked at me with contempt and didn't even bother to acknowledge my presence. I decided to not take it personally and went to freshen up. Later, while I was cooking pasta for myself in the kitchen, Ben came to get some water. He stood there watching me for a minute, which made me feel awkward. I asked him if there was something he wanted, but he gave me the same contemptuous look as before. I decided to ignore his presence and continued to cook so I could take the meal back to the bedroom and eat in peace. After I was done eating, as I was about to come downstairs, I overheard Lily and Ben talking. Ben was telling Lily how lucky she was to have upgraded herself after dating someone who looked like me. I froze in shock as I heard Lily laughing and agreeing with him. He then asked her why she ever fell in love with me, and that's when Lily said something that completely shattered me. She confessed that she had used me because I was gullible enough to pay for our dates when we went out and used to lend her money during college. She even revealed that I had paid more than half of the rent for the last couple of years, which allowed her to save a lot of money. I could not believe what I had just heard. I had always suspected that she might have used my good nature to pay more than half the rent, but I had no idea she had been using me since the very beginning. She and Ben then continued to talk about our relationship and basically made fun of me in every way. I was going to burst out in tears because of how humiliated I felt, but I didn't want to let them see me in this state. So I quietly headed back upstairs and spent the rest of the night quietly crying into my pillow. The next morning when I woke up, Lily and Ben were gone. She had taken the last of her things and had officially moved out. I walked around the house in a daze, and I knew that I was finally free from her. I cannot begin to describe how light I felt knowing that she was finally gone from my life and this house. I cried tears of happiness and danced around the house. Then I set about cleaning the entire place so that there would be no reminder of her anywhere. Over the next few weeks, I thoroughly enjoyed living on my own. I had stopped caring about what Lily and Ben had spoken about me. All was going well until 2 months later, when our mutual friend informed me at work that Lily was getting married to Ben. I was taken aback because it all seemed too sudden. Our friend showed me their engagement pictures, and they appeared to be very happy together. While I felt a slight pang of sadness for how Lily had used me all these years, I also recognized that I would have never been satisfied with her anyway. Therefore, I was pleased that she had found someone who could make her happy. That same night, when I came back home and checked my mailbox, I found an unexpected wedding invitation. My eyes widened in shock as I realized it was from Lily and Ben. I was starting to think it was maybe a mistake, where she had invited me just as a courtesy, until I opened the invitation and saw that she had scribbled something in the corner. Written inside the card was, "I want you to attend my wedding so you can see the grand life I'm going to have with Ben." It slowly sunk in that she had invited me only in the hopes of showing off her marriage, her rich partner, and her newfound wealth. I took a deep breath, trying to understand why she would even send an invitation like this to me, when all I had done was take care of her over the years. All the years of anger and frustration I had pent up inside kept boiling out, and I knew that I had to get petty with her. I RSVP'd with a +1. I had a plan forming in my head and was determined to make Lily regret ever inviting me. I opened up my laptop and began scrolling through Ben's social media profiles. I scanned each and every social media picture that he had ever posted. As luck would have it, I finally found what I was looking for. Just 6 months ago, Ben had broken up with his ex-girlfriend Jessica. He had several posts with her, and their pictures dated back to high school, which meant they had clearly been together for a very long time. I sent a friend request to Jessica from my profile, and when she accepted, I sent her a message. To my surprise, she responded, and we started talking. I was upfront with her about my identity as Lily's ex and told her about my plan to invite her as my +1 to their wedding. She seemed intrigued and curious as to why I was reaching out to her, but I explained everything to her. Over the next few weeks, Jessica opened up about how Ben had cheated on her multiple times, and his latest affair had been with Lily. This was news to me because I had no idea about this. She continued to reveal how Ben was always into younger women, hence, she wasn't surprised much when he announced that he was in love with Lily while they were still dating. As you can imagine, they had a pretty bad breakup, and she had blocked him from everywhere, despite him telling her that they should remain friends. From the way she talked about Ben, it seemed like she was still in love with him. I also told Jessica about my own experience with Lily and how she had used me for all those years. I poured my heart out to her, describing everything that Lily had put me through and how Ben and Lily had made fun of me. Jessica was shocked to hear about the way Lily had treated me and spoken about me. After hearing everything, Jessica finally agreed to accompany me. I felt excited thinking of the look on my ex and Ben's faces when they saw me attend their wedding with Jessica. On the day of the wedding, as expected, Lily's eyes widened when she saw me walking in with my special guest. She must have immediately recognized Jessica as Ben's ex. We ignored her expressions and pretended to find our designated seats. Lily came up to me and angrily whispered, asking why I was here with Ben's ex, but I simply smiled. She could not make a scene in front of everyone and had to begrudgingly walk back up to the aisle, eyeing me angrily. When it was time for the groom to make his entrance, everyone stood up from their seats. Ben looked stunning in his black tuxedo as he walked down the aisle with his father by his side. The ceremony went smoothly, and the celebrations moved to the reception area. Ben must have gotten a change because he was wearing a different suit when he entered the area. After witnessing the wedding ceremony, Jessica and I stayed low-key throughout the reception. We made sure to ignore Lily's angry glares and Ben's obvious irritation. I knew she desperately wanted to confront us, but she couldn't afford to cause a scene at her own wedding. Meanwhile, I just watched everything unfold with a sense of inner satisfaction, knowing that the impact of my presence was just beginning.